We'll start again. Thank you. This is the Owen J. Roberts Board of School Directors regular business meeting being held on September 18, 2023 at 6 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Please join us in a moment of silence as we reflect on those serving in the United States Armed Forces, both past and present, the elected leaders for the state of Pennsylvania, and elected leaders of our nation. We have much to be thankful for in our community. Thank you. Please be seated. The Board of School Directors met on the following dates in executive session to discuss items in one or more of the following areas: legal, personnel, or real estate matters on September 18, 2023. We have the superintendent's report, and I know our first order of business is to welcome our new student government students. So, Dr. Scott.
As Mrs. Peterson said, tonight we do welcome Joshua Zhang, our Student Government Executive Council President, who will provide the student government reports for the 2023-24 school year. Josh.
Thank you. So starting off with our high school, first and foremost, we would like to thank all of the law enforcement groups, supporting agencies, government officials, and community groups who came together last week in support of our safety. We are very grateful for and appreciate their hard work and support of this community. Also, we are very proud of how this year has started at our high school. We have excitedly welcomed 1,854 students to the building this year, and our focus is making sure that every student is actively engaged in every class, every day. Our students and staff are working collaboratively on this initiative and in response, and the response thus far has been extraordinary. As for our athletic teams, we have returned to the field and the courts, and the band has once again developed a phenomenal fall show, and our seniors are continuing to refine their post-secondary plans via our Wildcat Future sessions and other meetings with our counselors. And families are encouraged to look for our Wildcat Weekly Update each week for the latest recognitions, informations, and upcoming events regarding the high school. Now, as for the middle school students are also off to a great start. The first two student days ran on a modified schedule with 2 hours in homeroom each morning to do team building, review building protocols, and complete other start of year tasks. The middle school was also packed with parents during the back to school night on August 30th. Parents followed their child's schedules from class period to class period, and thank you to all who attended. And also, many of our middle school students are participating in various fall sports and other activities. And students were also excited to select their clubs this past Friday. Clubs will run every other day 6 in the middle school and will take place first thing in the morning. On Monday, September 18th, the high school NJROTC visited the middle school to present to our 8th grade students. They introduced them to the NJROTC program with hopes that some of the 8th graders will sign up and get started with their high school participation. Many students are earning daily rewards as well as larger reward tickets as part of their PBIS program. And the themes that the middle school focuses on are responsibility, kindness, and mindfulness. And the middle school looks forward to recognize our first Wildcats of the Month in October. Finally, for the elementary schools, all of the elementary schools welcome families into the buildings prior to the first day with an open house that gave students a chance to meet their new teachers and reconnect with their peers. The back to school night held earlier this month provided students and guardians with a chance to hear about classroom routines, schedules, curriculums, and upcoming events. The elementary schools utilized September to conduct beginning of the year assessments that will be used to measure students' growth over the course of the school year. And finally, our elementary schools are looking forward to attending the fall football nights. These well-attended events give families an opportunity to get together for the purpose of cheering on our Wildcats. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. And to go into my remarks, similar to what you said, we've had a great start to the 2023-24 school year, albeit with some unexpected excitement this past week. But before we begin, following what Joshua said as well, I want to share my sincere appreciation for our brave men and women in law enforcement for their work in apprehending the escaped prisoner who disrupted our school community. Also want to thank our amazing staff and our Wildcat families for their unwavering support, patience, and understanding. And I'm honored to work along so many talented members of our school community. A couple other things about the start of the school year. Our enrollment for the school year so far is 5,412 students. The Education Foundation Family Farm Fest will be held on Saturday, September 30th, starting at 5 p.m. Tickets include hay rides, corn maze, bonfires, and games, and all proceeds benefit students within the OJR school district. And a reminder that there is no school for students and staff on Monday, September 25th. Mrs. Peterson, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Stepp. Moving on to the first public comment area. There are 2 opportunities for public comment. The first section is for information, proposals, and statements from individuals or delegations pertaining to items on the agenda that will be voted on tonight. Speakers are to indicate your name, township of residence, and the items on the agenda to which your comments are addressed. Speakers will be limited to not more than 3 minutes. Please understand that this is not a time for dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. The second section will be at the end of the meeting and is for residents to speak on any item. Also, if you have a question for the school board, you may email all school board directors at schoolboardmembers@ojrsd.net and you will receive a written response. For anyone online who would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function. When it is your turn to speak, please state your name and township of residence.
Lauren Blute, North Coventry Township, East Coventry Township. I'm here regarding item 13.1, district goals. Full-day kindergarten. In the area, this is the last school district that does not have full-day kindergarten. Downingtown, Pottstown, Pottsgrove, Daniel Boone, Springford, Methacton, and Twin Valley all have full-day kindergarten. Your tax base comes from the people moving in. If I have a choice as a parent of taking my child to a morning kindergarten and then sending them to a daycare, I'd rather have my child in one building all day with a teacher rather than a paraprofessional or a half-time teacher and going to a daycare building where the teacher may be certified, but it's not, quote, a master level teacher. With that being said, yes, they do catch up by second grade. But for some students, especially the moving in that's coming into Owen J. Roberts, you need to take a serious look at it. They're not all coming loaded with bear, ready to go. They don't have support from all their parents. They're working hard and they need the extra hits, the extra time. I've worked in a full-day kindergarten. It gives you a half an hour for art, music, gym, library, physical education. It gives you time for a half an hour of playtime. Gives you a 40-minute block for language arts, where you can go into small group and work on the student who's really behind, or the student who's really ahead, and challenge them. It's a time to begin identifying gifted students. It's a time for beginning to identify students who have academic learning disabilities. Math, you get a 40-minute period. You get social emotional learning, approved social emotional learning, with a curriculum to follow. There's time for it instead of trying to push everything down the throat of a child who's only 5 years old. Consider putting in that full-day kindergarten as one of your goals. It really does work, and it would benefit the community tremendously. Thank you.
Heather McCurry, East Coventry. I just wanted to make a quick comment on the goal section also. With regard to I think on Monday night, there was conversation that the music program was going to be up for review. And so I think you guys, just from a past parent user in the school, I think it's really time to, again, look at the high school schedule, because we are one of the only high schools that has a 5-day rotating schedule. So it was a big deal when it started to rotate, but almost every other high school around here has 6 days. Some of them have block scheduling, but almost every single high school has 6 days. And when you put a 6-day schedule in, it allows the kids to take more classes and to do like classes during a 6 period that are 2 days or 3 days, however you want to work it out. But it allows kids to do music and to look at the music program again, because if you combine it with the goal and the architect's plans that we listened to last Monday, to actually concentrate and to build the performing arts wing up more, I think you really need to look at the curriculum that goes with the music, right? And to make it more available to the kids. I haven't scoured around for a long time, but a lot of the high schools do not penalize you still for taking music. And even though we have weighted classes here, when you get to high school, you have to make a choice. And so it would be really kind of neat to not have to make those kids make a choice. So, that's it.
There are no online comments. Moving on to board committee reports. A working session was held on September 11, 2023 at 6 p.m. The following committees met at this time: Finance, Buildings, and Grounds. 6.2, Chester County Intermediate Unit, Mrs. Munson.
The Chester County Intermediate Unit Board met last on August 16th, 2023, and discussed the programs that are starting up for the fall, very similar to what we have here. And everybody's familiar with the Technical College High School campuses, I'm sure, but there was a lot of discussion of all the programs. They do Head Start for very young children, support all the way down to infancy and through adults. So it's always exciting hearing about the new stuff. The next meeting will be September 20th at the TCHS Brandywine campus.
Thank you. Curriculum and Special Education Committee, Ms. Sabo.
I also want to say a thank you to the law enforcement and our security on our campus over for the last week. Very emotional time, and I think everybody did a very wonderful job keeping our community safe. I also want to say a special thank you to our cabinet administration. I thought the communication was fantastic and very informative. We have not met since our last school board meeting at this time. However, we did go over district goals at our last working session. Many of the goals are related to the special ed committee, and I highly suggest everybody take a look at those. Our cabinet members have worked very hard on those goals, and that's all for tonight.
Thank you. Finance, Building, and Grounds, Mr. Harmanos.
Good evening. The newly renovated high school library was open to students and staff last week on Friday. The newly renovated LGI will be open to students and staff starting tomorrow. Beginning next month, school board working sessions and board meetings will return to the high school LGI. During the September 11th working session, the Schrader Group presented part 1 of the facilities master plan, which included the main campus as well as traffic improvements for French Creek and West Vincent Elementary Schools. We're going to continue to discuss the next steps during monthly working session meetings. We have 2 items on the agenda today for approval. Item 13.11 is construction change orders related to the high school LGI and library renovation projects. And item 13.12 is an engineering services related to demolition of the vacant house that the district owns on the Cadmus Road property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harmanos. Legislative and Policy Committee, Dr. Malmazat.
The Legislative and Policy Committee has not met since the last business meeting, but there are 2 agenda items. This is for LMP tonight. Agenda item 13.3, there's approval of 3 policies for second reading. These include policy 204, attendance, policy 339, uncompensated leave, and policy 335, family and medical leaves. Additionally, we have agenda item 13.8. This is for approval of receipt approval of two policies for deletion for second reading. These are policies 435 and 535, both of which will be merged into policy 335. And the next LMP meeting is scheduled to take place at the October 9th working session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Momazak. Personnel Committee, Dr. Ratoli.
The Personnel Committee has not met since the first meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Ratoli. Agenda item 7.1, the recommended routine matters consent items. May I have a motion to approve the following routine matters, which are items 7.2 through 7.8 as action consent items?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos?
Second.
Ms. Sabo, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. The acknowledgement of receipts and donation, contributions, and gifts. The district received a gift from Pottstown Area Health and Wellness for $70,000 in a grant to support the O&J Roberts School District Fit for Life program. The high school, the PTSA will be dissolving and has donated the $5,269.32 in remaining funds to be distributed as follows: to the class of 24, $1,000, class of 25, $1,000, class of 26, $1,000, and the class of 27, $1,000, and the OJR Fashion Show Club that we will vote on later this evening will receive $1,269.32. East Vincent Elementary School received a grant, received funds from Pottstown Area Health and Wellness of $350 towards improving school wellness through nutrition, physical activity, and/or stress management of students and staff. May I have a motion to acknowledge the receipt of those donations, contributions, and gifts as presented?
So moved.
Mrs. DiMarino and Dr. Ratoli, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Looking for motion to approve the routine matters consent items 9.2 through 9.3. May I have a motion to approve the following routine matters, which are listed as items 9.2 through 9.3 as action consent items?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos? Second. Mrs. DiMarino, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 10, board discussion. I'd like to say, as both Dr. Stout mentioned and Mrs. Sabo earlier, our entire district owes an incredible debt of gratitude. Those of us who were in the room last Monday night during our marathon working session did not imagine what was happening as we left the working session and started our drive home, especially those of us who live south in the district. Trying to even just get home on Route 100 was something out of a book that we never thought we'd see in our community. So on behalf of the school board, on behalf of myself, we are so appreciative of the law enforcement officers who work so diligently to get our community safe again. I know as both a school board member and a parent, I have such thankfulness for Dr. Stout and Mr. Rodriguez and the entire cabinet team and the administration for their leadership and communication during last week. I think there wasn't a time where I didn't feel like I knew what was going on and how my children could expect to go about their day. And so I know I speak as a parent first and foremost how appreciative I am of everyone's work last week to keep us moving in the right direction.
I agree with all that, and I also just want to add that I also very much appreciated that even though the whole situation was unnerving, our administrators, nobody kind of whipped us into a panic or anything like that. I always felt that everyone was very confident and measured in their discussion, and I thought that was very much appreciated for something that was a little bit frightening.
Although there is still, I guess, a little bit of confusion in my mind because I know how to handle snow days. Can somebody give clarification on how we handle emergency shutdowns for escaped convicts?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? So my thinking at this point is it's so early in the school year. We have 2 days built into the calendar for makeup days, so that would be the end of the school year. We can apply at any time for those emergency days. My concern is, if we applied for those emergency days, then we would have less than 180 instructional days. So at this point, my thinking and conversations I've had with my team is that we would look to make those 2 days up. I think it's that Thursday, Friday that's built in the calendar. I think it's June 5th and 6th. I don't know, I'm talking, are those the dates, June 5th and 6th? So that's my recommendation. But again, we could apply at any time for emergency declarations. So if we would have a bad winter and we would find ourselves using multiple snow days, and we could petition the state for those 2 closures to be waived. But I'm not prepared, or I don't want to do it at this point of the school year.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any other board discussion? Okay. I am for less unprecedented times. Let's go for totally precedented times for a while. Agenda item 11 is old business. Mrs. Carmine, do we have any old business? No, we don't. Okay. New business, approval of personnel matters. May I have a motion to approve the following personnel matters, which are agenda items 12.2 through 12.5 as action consent items as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos, do I have a second? Dr. Rattoli, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 13, the approval of 13.1, approval of the 2023-24 district goals. May I have a motion for the approval of the 2023-24 district goals as presented?
I'll motion.
Mr. Dockery, second by Mrs. Sabo. Any discussion?
I'd just like to highlight that evaluation of the full-day kindergarten program is the first item on that goal list.
Yes. I think, I would like to say that, we, as the administration and as the board, worked really hard on producing what we believe to be meaningful and district-wide goals that we as a community can communicate well to our entire community, from parents to staff to children, to understand what our direction is for this year, what we are looking to accomplish as an educational community, and what we believe to be what will help us all move forward as an educational community. And so I think tremendous work was done on these, and my specific thanks to the members of the cabinet who worked really hard on these goals and producing a document that we know we can all move forward with and communicate really well to our community.
And I would assume that this discussion would be part of like our town halls, for the community to speak on their behalf and give us their opinions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in the formats we've used in the past, we've always reviewed the district goals first, but just from my point of view, this goal document will drive our work this year. So this will be our focus as an administrative team as we proceed through the school year. And we've talked with the board about regular updates on where we're at with these goals, so we will be providing those as well.
And I also really like the fact that we're getting it down to 3 main areas that seem to really overarch not just this year, but multiple years, so that we can continue using those 3 main areas, and the community will get to know better and better each year what sort of things they reflect, because they'll see the individual goals, like hopefully we'll go from evaluating what it takes for full-day kindergarten to actually moving some of those things into place. But people will recognize that that's the continuation year to year.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 13.2, the approval of 2024 PSBA slate of candidates. May I have a motion to approve the 2024 PSBA slate of candidates as presented? So moved. Ms. Munson, do I have a second? Dr. Otoli, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 13.3, approval of out-of-state overnight student trips. May I have a motion to approve out-of-state overnight trips as presented?
So moved.
Mrs. DiMarino,
Second.
Mr. Harmonos, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 13.4, approval of conference attendance. May I have a motion for the approval of conference attendance as presented? Dr.
Second.
Malnazak, Mr. Harmonos, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 13.5, the approval to establish student activity. May I have a motion to establish a student activity club in accordance with provisions of Section 511 of the Pennsylvania School Code and School Board Regulation 122A and/or 122B as presented. This approval also provides for the establishment of accounts within the student activity accounting system when applicable. The two clubs up for approval this evening are the Prom Fashion Show Club and the Cinema Club. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. DiMarino,
Second.
Mr. Harmonos, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 13.6, the approval of student activity club advisors and student officers. May I have a motion for the approval of student activity club advisors and student officers in accordance with the provisions of Section 511 of the Pennsylvania School Code for the 2023-24 school year as presented? Mrs. Sabo. Dr. Malnazak, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 13.7, policies for second reading. May I have a motion for the approval of policies for second reading as presented, and that is policy 339, uncompensated leave, new policy, and policy 335, family and medical leaves. Do I have a motion? Dr. Malnazak, do I have a second? Dr. Otoli, any discussion?
Is policy 204 included in that as well?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It is, and policy 204.
I just had a question about policy 204. I was assuming, and just maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, that these, this would basically be reflecting state law as far as attendance requirements? And is there anything in here that's beyond that? That's my one question. And my second question would be, I did notice that there are some guidelines that are a little bit vague, like, for example, you can consider certain conditions and waive the attendance rules, in some circumstances. And I was just curious about why that's not a little more specific. Like, for an example, family emergency is not defined or anything like that, or any kind of amount of days you could have for that. I was just curious about that.
Sure, I can let Mr. Bentman answer those questions. To my knowledge, we're following the PSBA guidance that we're getting on that policy. But if there are any things that are unique to us, Brad, do you want to just point those out?
Sure. So a lot of the information in this policy is backed by the school code, but there are some nuances within 204 that's specific to L&J. If you look at different policies in different districts, there's some differences here and there, subtle ones, or maybe subtle ones, or things that we do here. But overall, the kind of flavor of the policy is all backed by the code, DE, such as, for example, when we talk about changes that were needed, and we talk about the non-school sponsored travel form, things like that, those are some nuances that we may do, and some others might do different things based off of how we handle those sort of things.
Okay, and so these different things, like for excused and lawful absences that are sort of not specific, how are those things determined as far as, educational travel that you may, I don't know, who is the one that evaluates all that?
It's a great question. So at first, the first step would be the school principal. So the school principal will look at it, and then anything above and beyond has to be approved by the superintendent. Dr.
Okay.
Stout then approves those. There needs
Okay.
to be, the goal is to be consistent, and that's always going to be the message, but there is a little bit of flexibility in there based off of certain circumstances.
Okay. If everyone's comfortable with that, I was just wanting that consistency and wasn't sure if it's not really stated in there, but if we feel confident that administration will handle that, then that's fine.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.8, the approval of policies for deletion for second reading. I have a motion for the approval to move policies for deletion to full school board for second reading. And that's policy 435, family medical leaves, and policy 535, family and medical leaves. Dr. Malazek? Dr. Otoli, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.9, the approval of a confidential settlement agreement and release. May I have a motion for the approval of the confidential settlement agreement and release for the student in 2023-24 as presented? Dr. Malazek, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Doherty, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And the motion passes. 13.10, the approval of a confidential settlement agreement and release. May I have a motion for the approval of a confidential settlement agreement and release for student 2023-24 as presented?
So moved.
Mrs. DiMarino? Dr. Malazek, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.11, the approval of construction change order. May I have a motion for the approval of construction change orders for renovations to the high school, library, and LGI and the district service center as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos, do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Malazek, any discussion?
Can I just have a quick question on this? I know we see these a lot, but I'm out of curiosity. Are these change orders as a result of a code inspector coming in and telling us that something wasn't up to code and we needed to address it?
Yes, several of them are due to code inspection. Others, when you're doing a renovation of an existing space, you have unforeseen conditions. So when they're tearing down a wall or pulling up a floor, you might think there's an outlet or wires and then maybe they're not there. So that's why you're seeing the electrical change orders, combination of both.
So do we budget for these contingencies?
Yes, we have contingency within the budget for sure, especially during a renovation project. And one is a credit of 19,000.
Oh.
So we're net about 4,000 in cost.
So the one change order, 19 is a credit?
Correct.
Okay.
That one's a credit. And the 23,000 is an add.
And the work on the high school library and LGI, that is already completed or still to be completed?
The work on the high school library and LGI, that work has been completed. Yep.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.12, approval of professional services maintenance agreement. May I have a motion for the approval of professional services maintenance agreements as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. DiMarino, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 14, public comment. Information, proposals, and statements from individuals or delegations pertaining to any item. Speakers are to indicate your name and township of residence. Speakers will be limited to not more than 3 minutes. Please understand that this is not a time for a dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. Also, if you have a question for the school board, please email all Board of School Directors at schoolboardmembers@ojrsd.net, and you will receive a written response. For anyone online who would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function. When it is your turn to speak, please state your name and township of residence.
Hi again. Connie Elizabeth, Coventry Township. East Coventry Township. I'm back here again with my favorite topic, full-day kindergarten. Okay? And I watched your eyes, I watched your body language, and I listened to what you were saying about the Cadmus project. I sat here last Monday and listened, and absorbing the amount of money over there. What you're basically saying is the athletics is more important than the 5-year-olds. You had a chance to use East Coventry as a kindergarten center. It was perfect. Instead, you use it as a maintenance center. I know that Norristown School District created a full-day kindergarten center in less than a year. Take a look at it, go down and look at it. It's surprising. You're going to put all the money into the fields on Cadmus Road, making it wonderful for the athletes, but you're forgetting about the littles. The littles are the future. Without that future, you have no need for that field. Without that field, you have no sports. It's a catch-22, but littles come first. They're the future. And about the field, you're putting a field in for middle school sports. Middle school sports usually start at 3:30, 4 o'clock and last for anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half to 2 hours. After daylight savings time, it starts to get dark. Anybody think about the lights on that field? You're going to need them. You have a field sitting out right now. When I pulled in Monday night, when middle school plays football, 9th grade plays football, that field is empty. That stadium's empty. You can use the stadium. It's a lot better than creating a field, destroying a home, destroying property, and not taking care of the littles. Think about it. Some of you are going to be grandparents very soon. Would you want your child in a full-day kindergarten program without rush, calmness? There would be calmness in their program, and they would enjoy their experience, and you wouldn't have to worry about daycare when daycare is closed because of disease, germs, whatever it is. Think about it. Future is in your hands.
Okay, Heather McCurry, East Coventry, we were here last week and I think everybody should know only 3 of us listened to your goal presentation, right? And we're here tonight, so, or not the goal, but the architect cost out and feasibility study. Are you guys going to have that on display and up on the website so that the public can look at what was done, so everybody can see it? What are your next steps for that? The second question, I think, goes to Attorney Seubers. With the confidential settlements on here, the reason why the monetary amounts are not listed, used to be we would put student A, B, or C and the monetary amount. I'm not really clear why the monetary amount is hidden, because this is a public school district, right? And the third thing I want to talk about is my favorite topic, the PTSA, and what a sad moment it is to have that disbanded. When we were here last Monday, Board Director Dave Hermanis talked about how could we get pride back into this district. And pride is like when you go to the band preview night and everybody's there. Pride is also the kids in this school, and the difference between being a sport parent and being a PTA volunteer is PTA is for everybody. If there's no PTA, is somebody starting a PTO? Because those activities that got shut down, the fashion show that hopefully it can still succeed, was to fund a post-prom. That went on. We were the second school in the area to do that, and the school districts around here are still doing it. We are about the only one that does not have a post-prom. And how can that possibly be okay with safety and wellness and mental health? Post-prom was for all the children in the school, wasn't for the, maybe the most popular kid wanted to go. I know my friends and I ran post-proms that were to die for, frankly. Spirit of Philadelphia, Dave & Buster's, the one in the school, we gave away $1,000. I think that you guys, I don't mean this personally as board members, but if you guys have kids in the high school, you gotta volunteer, right? Like, it starts with everybody here, and we hear all this talk about parent involvement. Where is everybody, right? You can't say you want to be involved in the school, but where the heck is everybody, right? Because If none of you guys ever went to a PTA event or volunteered, I think you guys need to work at that. I would guess, are probably one of the only high schools around not to have a high school PTA now. So I don't know how you get back to that idea of a goal, but I think it's really time to do so, right? Thank you.
There are no comments online. No hands raised. Okay. Agenda item 15, board discussion, follow-up, and request for information. Does anyone have any follow-up or request for information?
Can I get a little background? I'm not sure if there's a forum for it, but can I get a little background on the PTA dissolution thing? Or should we do that? Is an appropriate time for that?
It is a voluntary parent organization, so we can ask for.
Is there no one to run it this year, or is that the?
That would be up to the volunteers of the PTSA.
Yeah, we'd have to get more information on that. Again, like Mrs. Peterson said, you know, it is a volunteer association, but I don't have any other details.
Okay.
Can I just ask one thing? Could I ask just a little simple request that the goals after tonight be prominently placed on our website with a link that can take you to the document? When I go to look for the goals, you have to click through a couple of menu options on the website, and I find it like if it just be somewhere where it's easy to access, I'd really appreciate that.
Well, just additionally to Dan's comment, as Will said, we're going to be scheduling regular updates. So since the time-bound aspect of these goals is for the whole year, like to see when you're scheduling, so people know coming out for an update on exploring every all-day kindergarten. Thank you.
And also, it does seem worth clarifying, perhaps, that the presentation that was given to the board was not anything that has been voted on by the board. So nothing that was in that presentation has been approved to move forward, correct?
Correct. That was part one, and that was just for consideration. It's a 10-year master facilities plan. There's going to be some additional parts that come, but no action from the board anytime soon. We got a lot of information to vet and present before we'd be asking the board to take any action on that.
Right, so if we did post it publicly at this point, it might be very confusing for people because they might think that they are actually solid plans that have been voted on.
Well, technically, they are in the agenda.
Right, they're in the agenda.
So they
People
are
can look them
posted
up.
publicly and can be viewed online.
Yeah, the presentations, I wanted to double check on my computer, but I believe I know the working session agenda was posted, so I want to just make sure that those presentations were there for the public, but they're accessible.
Right, but people have to know which agenda to look for. We're not going to put them as, you know, like Dan just asked for the goals, like they've been voted on. So yeah, we want them to be super searchable, super easy to find, really super easy. But that the other presentation that contains plans that are just amorphous, I do think it's worth.
Proposed plan, so you
Right,
don't want to put
proposed-
that on your homepage for people
Yeah.
to think that it's the plan.
Yeah, so everybody on the board agrees with that division, right?
There's a lot of work that has to go into, finalizing those and prioritizing those and fine tuning it, so.
And all that happens before we even come to a vote.
Yeah.
So it might not even be accurate to go and propose.
They are pre-proposal.
The dreams.
Including the tunnels and the roundabouts.
And the bridges.
Sorry, just to circle back to the PTA question.
PTSA.
PTSA. So if there's a group of parents that would like to start a PTA in the high school, would that be welcome, and who would they contact?
There's a process to start those, but that would go through Mr. Kohler, the high school principal.
Great, thanks.
Okay. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.